At my graduation dinner, my brother shoved cake in my face and said, "Cheers to the family disappointment." My dad laughed and said, "He's not wrong." I didn't react. That night, I removed my card from every tuition payment I covered for him. At 8:12 a.m., they got the email. His semester was canceled. Balance unpaid. My dad called yelling, "My name is Eric Reyes. I am 32 years old. And if there is one thing I have learned in my life, it is that being dependable does not mean being valued." I sat on the edge of my bed staring at the medical degree certificate propped against my dresser. Summa cum laude, Doctor of Medicine. 8 years of brutal work, sleepless nights, and sacrifices that nobody in my family would ever acknowledge. The gold embossing caught the dim lamplight, and for a moment, I let myself feel proud, but only for a moment. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Don't forget dinner Thursday at Giovanni's, 7 p.m. sharp. Your father made reservations." I typed back a simple confirmation and set the phone down. Thursday, my graduation celebration dinner. The one meal where, theoretically, I would be the center of attention. The one night where my achievements might actually matter to the people who raised me. I knew better than to hope for that. For most of my adult life, I had been the family's silent bank account, the emergency fund, the backup plan. When Mom and Dad could not make their mortgage payment 3 years ago, I wired them $4,000. When the roof needed repairs, I covered $8,000. When Dad's car transmission died, I paid for the replacement without being asked to. And when my younger brother Philip decided he wanted to attend Whitman College, one of the most expensive private schools on the West Coast, I became his unseen scholarship fund. Philip was 23 now, finishing his senior year. He studied communications, a major he chose because it sounded easy and fun. He partied 4 nights a week, posted Instagram stories from beach trips and ski resorts, and complained loudly whenever he had to write a 10-page paper. His tuition was $62,000 per year. I had been paying it in full for 3 years. That was $186,000, not counting his housing, his meal plan, his textbooks, or the credit card I gave him for emergencies that he used for bottle service and spring break flights. My parents told him they were covering it. They told him they had saved for his education, that he was their investment, their pride. They never once mentioned that I was the one transferring money into their account every semester so they could turn around and pay his bursar bill. I was not supposed to tell him. That was the unspoken rule. Mom had said it once casually over the phone 2 years ago. "Philip does not need to know about this, Eric. It will just make him feel guilty. Let him think we are taking care of it. You understand, right?" I understood. I always understood. What I did not understand was why, at every family dinner, every holiday, every gathering, Philip was the golden child and I was the punchline. He was the charming one, the social one, the one with potential. I was the boring one, the one who worked too much, the one who did not know how to have fun. At Thanksgiving 2 years ago, Philip had stood up with a wine glass and toasted to the coolest parents in the world for supporting his dreams. Dad clapped him on the shoulder. Mom teared up. I sat at the far end of the table, moving mashed potatoes around my plate, invisible as always. Nobody toasted me. Nobody asked about my residency interviews. Nobody mentioned that I had been named to the dean's list for the 6th consecutive semester. The pattern had started long before college. When I was 16, I saved money from a part-time job at a grocery store to buy a laptop for school. 2 months later, my parents sold it without asking and used the money to buy Philip a car for his 14th birthday. When I protested, Dad looked at me with that familiar expression of disappointment. "Philip needs it more than you need a computer. You can use the library. Stop being selfish." I stopped protesting after that. I learned to stay quiet, to accept that my role in the family was to provide, not to receive. I looked at my phone again. The payment portal for Whitman College was still open in my browser. Auto pay enabled, next withdrawal scheduled for May 14th. 13 days from now, $31,000 for Philip's final semester. The balance due before he could graduate. I stared at the screen for a long time. The cursor blinked in the silence of my room. Outside, I could hear traffic, distant sirens, the hum of the city that never really slept. Inside, I felt the weight of years pressing down on my shoulders. Then I closed the browser and went to bed. I thought that is what family did. You supported them, even when they did not see you, even when they did not say thank you. I really believe that. The restaurant smelled like garlic, fresh bread, and expensive wine. Giovanni's was the kind of place where the menu did not list prices and the waiters wore ties. Dad had reserved the private dining room, a space with dark wood paneling, low amber lighting, and a long table that sat 12. There were only 5 of us. Me, Mom, Dad, Philip, and Philip's girlfriend, a blonde marketing major named Piper, who laughed too loud at everything Philip said. I arrived exactly on time, 7 p.m. sharp. Mom was already seated, scrolling through her phone, her reading glasses perched on her nose. Dad stood near the bar talking to the manager about wine pairings, gesturing with his hands the way he always did when he wanted to seem knowledgeable. Philip and Piper were late, as usual. "Eric, honey, you look tired," Mom said without looking up from her screen. "You should get more sleep. You have dark circles." "Thanks, Mom," I said, quietly taking the seat at the far end of the table. Dad glanced over, gave me a brief nod, then returned to his conversation. I sat alone for 11 minutes, watching the door, checking my watch, until Philip finally strolled in with Piper on his arm. He wore a designer polo that I recognized because I had seen the charge on the credit card statement. $340. "There he is," Philip announced loudly, spreading his arms like he was addressing an auditorium. "The graduate, the doctor, the man who somehow made med school look boring." Piper giggled. Mom smiled indulgently. Dad chuckled and waved them over. "Traffic was insane," Philip said, dropping into his chair. "We stopped at that new cocktail bar on 5th. You should see it, Dad. Incredible." "We will have to check it out," Dad said warmly. Nobody apologized for being late. Nobody acknowledged that we had been waiting. We ordered. The waiter brought out appetizers, calamari and bruschetta, then entrees. I ordered salmon. Philip ordered the most expensive steak on the menu, rare, with truffle butter. The conversation revolved around Philip's upcoming graduation, his job prospects in marketing, his summer plans to backpack through Europe with Piper. I was asked one question during the entire meal. "So, Eric, what is next for you? Residency?" I nodded, setting down my fork. "Yes, I matched at St. Mary's for internal medicine. I start in June." "That is nice," Mom said absently, already turning to Philip. "Sweetheart, tell your father about that interview you have lined up in Seattle, the one with the tech startup." The conversation moved on. I ate my salmon in silence, counting the minutes until I could leave, until I could escape back to my quiet apartment where nobody needed me to be anything other than myself. Philip talked about salary negotiations he had not even started yet. He talked about the Tesla he wanted to buy once he landed his first job. He talked about the apartment in downtown Seattle with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the water. Dad listened with rapt attention, nodding, offering advice, beaming with pride. I finished my meal and pushed my plate aside. Then the cake arrived. It was a small celebration cake, white frosting with gold lettering that read, "Congratulations, Dr. Eric Reyes." The waiter placed it in the center of the table with a polite smile and a small nod in my direction. I felt a flicker of something warm in my chest. Maybe gratitude. Maybe surprise that they had actually remembered to order something for me. Philip stood up. He picked up the cake with both hands, grinning wide, and walked toward me. I thought he was bringing it closer so I could see it better. I thought maybe just this once he was going to say something kind, something brotherly. Instead, he shoved the entire cake into my face. Frosting filled my nose, my mouth, my eyes. The room exploded with laughter. I heard Piper shriek with delight, her voice high and piercing. I heard Dad's booming laugh, the kind he only used when he found something truly hilarious. I sat completely still, frosting dripping down my shirt, my hands frozen on the armrests of my chair. Philip stepped back, still laughing, and raised his wine glass high. "Cheers to the family disappointment," he said loudly, his voice carrying across the private room. The room went quiet for half a second, just half a second of silence where the words hung in the air, sharp and cutting. Then Dad, still chuckling, raised his own glass. "He is not wrong," Dad said. Mom giggled nervously. Piper covered her mouth, her shoulders shaking with suppressed laughter. Philip clinked his glass against Dad's, the sound ringing like a bell. I did not move. I did not speak. I reached for my napkin with slow, deliberate movements, wiped the frosting from my eyes and stood up. My chair scraped against the floor, loud in the sudden stillness. Eric, honey, it is just a joke, Mom said quickly, her smile faltering. Do not be so sensitive. I looked at her, then at Dad, who was still grinning, then at Philip, who was watching me with that familiar expression of smug amusement. I pulled my wallet from my pocket and placed $200 bills next to my untouched wine glass, enough to cover my portion of the meal and the cake I would not be eating. Then I turned and walked out of the private dining room, through the main restaurant where other diners looked up curiously, and into the parking lot. Nobody followed me. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, staring at the steering wheel, frosting still sticky on my collar and in my hair. My hands were shaking, not from anger, not yet, from something else. A realization that was slowly crystallizing in my chest, cold and sharp and undeniable. I was not their son. I was their ATM. And Philip was not my brother. He was their investment, their pride, their future. I was just the one who paid for it. I drove home in silence, the radio off, the streets blurring past. When I got to my apartment, I did not turn on the lights. I sat on my couch in the dark, still wearing my ruined shirt, and opened my laptop. The Whitman College payment portal loaded instantly. Auto pay settings, linked card, scheduled withdrawal. I stared at the screen for a long time. The cursor blinked. Waiting. Then I clicked Remove Payment Method. A confirmation box appeared. Are you sure you want to remove this card? Future payments will not process automatically. My finger hovered over the trackpad. I clicked Confirm. The page refreshed. Payment method removed. No backup card on file. Account balance due. $31,000. Payment deadline. May 14th, 8 a.m. I closed the laptop and sat in the dark. I did not feel angry. I did not feel sad. I felt calm. Eerily, perfectly calm. They wanted to treat me like I did not matter? Fine. Let's see how long their golden child stays golden without me. I woke up at 6:30 the next morning to 17 missed calls, 12 from Mom, 3 from Dad, 2 from Philip. No voicemails, just calls. Persistent, angry calls that had started at 11 p.m. and continued until 2 in the morning. I ignored all of them. I made coffee, slow and deliberate, using the French press I had bought myself last year as a small luxury. I sat at my small kitchen table and drank it black, staring out the window at the gray morning sky. The city was waking up. Joggers passed by on the sidewalk below. A garbage truck rumbled down the street. Normal people living normal lives. My phone kept buzzing. I turned it face down and let it vibrate against the wood. By 9 a.m., a voicemail finally came through. Mom's voice, shrill and defensive. Eric, I do not know why you are being so dramatic. It was a joke. Philip was just trying to lighten the mood. You have always been too sensitive. Call me back. I deleted it without a second thought. Another voicemail. Dad this time. His tone was clipped, annoyed. The voice he used when one of his employees disappointed him. Eric, your mother is upset. You embarrassed her last night by storming out like a child. Grow up. Call her and apologize. I deleted that one too. The third voicemail was Philip. His voice was casual, almost bored, like he was leaving a message about weekend plans. Dude, Mom is freaking out. Just text her back or whatever. She thinks you are mad. It was funny, man. You have to admit it was funny. I sat there holding the phone, staring at the screen. The voicemail timestamp glowed. 9:14 a.m. I did not call back. For 3 days, I let them spiral. I went to my shift at the hospital, finished my final week of clinical rotations, and prepared for my residency start date. I answered emails from colleagues. I confirmed my housing arrangement near St. Mary's. I packed boxes, labeled them, stacked them against the wall of my apartment. I did not answer my family. On the 4th day, Mom sent a text. Fine, be childish. But you are still coming to Philip's graduation next month, right? He wants you there. I stared at that message for a long time. He wants you there. Not we want you there. Not we miss you. Not we are sorry. He wants you there. Of course he did, because I was useful, I was the reliable one, the one who showed up, kept quiet, and paid for things. I typed a single word response. No. Mom called immediately. I let it ring. She called again. I declined it. She sent 4 texts in rapid succession. What do you mean no? Eric, this is ridiculous. You are his brother. He needs you there. I turned my phone off and went for a run. The air was cool, the streets familiar. I ran hard, pushing myself until my lungs burned and my thoughts went quiet. When I came back, I sat at my laptop and opened a folder I had been building for the past 2 years. It was labeled Family Finances, and it contained everything. Every bank transfer, every Venmo receipt, every mortgage payment, every car repair, every credit, card statement showing Philip's charges. I had scanned documents, saved emails, downloaded PDFs. I had kept meticulous records because some part of me, even then, knew this day might come. There were 143 files in that folder. I opened a spreadsheet I had started 18 months ago, back when I first began to feel the weight of their expectations crushing me. It tracked every dollar I had given them, categorized by type, dated, cross-referenced. The total sat at the bottom, highlighted in red, $312,652, over 6 years. I stared at that number until it stopped feeling like money and started feeling like evidence. Evidence of my erasure. Evidence of their exploitation. Evidence that I had been nothing more than a resource to be mined. Then I opened my email and started drafting a message. I did not send it, not yet, but I wrote it, slowly, carefully, with timestamps and attachments, and a calm, factual tone that left no room for interpretation. I was not angry. Anger would have been loud, messy, impulsive. I was methodical, and that was so much worse for them. On May 14th, at exactly 8:12 a.m., Whitman College's automated billing system attempted to process Philip's final tuition payment. The system pinged the saved payment method on file. No card found. The transaction failed. At 8:13 a.m., an email was generated and sent to the student account holder, Philip James Reyes. Subject line: urgent, payment failed, semester enrollment at risk. I knew the exact timeline because I had called the bursar's office 2 weeks earlier, pretending to be a prospective parent, asking about payment deadlines and policies. The representative had been helpful, thorough, patient with my questions. She explained that if a balance was not cleared by 8 a.m. on the deadline date, the student would be unenrolled from all classes automatically. The system was rigid, unforgiving, designed to protect the institution from financial risk. Perfect. I was in the hospital break room when my phone started ringing. 8:47 a.m., Dad's number. I let it ring. He called again. I declined. At 9:03 a.m., a text from Philip. Dude, what the hell, my tuition didn't go through. I did not respond. At 9:15 a.m., Philip called. I sent it to voicemail. At 9:22 a.m., Dad called again. This time, I answered. I put the phone on speaker and set it on the table in front of me, my coffee growing cold beside it. Where the hell is the tuition money? Dad's voice came through, sharp and furious. Good morning, Dad, I said calmly. Do not good morning me. Philip just called. His semester was canceled. The school is saying the payment bounced. What did you do? I did not do anything, I said. The payment bounced because there is no card on file. What do you mean no card on file? You set up autopay. I removed it. Silence, complete, total silence. I could hear him breathing on the other end of the line. Then quieter, more. Dangerous. You what? I removed my card from the payment portal. On May 1st, the school sent multiple reminders about the upcoming balance. Nobody paid it, so the semester was canceled. Eric, fix this, right now. No. Excuse me? I picked up my coffee, took a slow sip even though it had gone lukewarm, and set it down gently. I said no. You are going to ruin your brother's graduation over a stupid joke? This has nothing to do with a joke, Dad. Then what the hell is it about? I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling tiles, at the fluorescent lights that hummed constantly. It is about the fact that I have paid $186,000 for Philip's education over the past 3 years, and nobody has ever said thank you. The line went dead quiet. You told him you were paying for it, I continued, my voice still calm. still measured. You told him you had saved for his college. You told him he was your investment, your pride. You made him think you were funding his dreams. But it was me, Dad. It was always me. I covered his tuition, his housing, his meal plan, his textbooks. I gave you the money every semester, and you passed it along like it was yours. Eric, Dad's voice shifted, less angry, more careful. We were going to pay you back. When? When things got better. Things have been better for 2 years. You bought a new Lexus last summer. Mom remodeled the kitchen. You took that cruise to Alaska in February. You had money, Dad. You just did not want to spend it on Philip's tuition when you could spend mine instead. That is not fair. What is not fair, I said, my voice dropping lower, colder, is that I worked 16-hour shifts to pay for his party fund while he called me the family disappointment. What is not fair is that I sat at that dinner, covered in cake, while you laughed and agreed with him. So no, Dad, I am not fixing this. Philip's tuition is not my responsibility. It never was. If you want him to graduate, you pay for it. You figure it out. I am done. I hung up. My hands were steady. My breathing was slow. I felt nothing but clarity, sharp and bright and liberating. At 10:08 a.m., Mom called. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was frantic, pleading, her words tumbling over each other. Eric, please, we can talk about this. Philip is devastated. He might not graduate. He worked so hard for this. Please just pay the balance and we will sit down and discuss everything. Please, honey, please. I deleted it. At 11:30 a.m., Philip texted, You're really going to do this to me? Over a cake? Grow up. I blocked his number. At 1:42 p.m., Dad sent an email. The subject line read, We need to talk. I archived it without reading the body. At 4:00 p.m., I received a notification from my bank. Someone had attempted to use the old card number I had removed from Philip's account. Transaction declined. Insufficient authentication. They were scrambling. Desperate. Panicking. Good. Let them scramble. That evening, I sat in a quiet corner of a coffee shop 2 blocks from my apartment. My laptop open in front of me. The place smelled like espresso and cinnamon. Soft jazz played over the speakers. A few other customers sat scattered around, typing on laptops, reading books, lost in their own worlds. I was not hiding. I just needed neutral ground to finish what I had started. I opened the email draft I had been working on for days. The recipient list included Mom, Dad, and Philip. CC'd my Aunt Alice, my Uncle Aaron, and my grandmother. The extended family who had always wondered why I never came to gatherings anymore, who had been fed the narrative that I was too busy, too serious, too distant. The subject line, the real story, I attached the spreadsheet. $312,000, 6 years of payments, every line item labeled, mortgage contributions, car repairs, medical bills, emergency loans, credit card debt payments, and the big one, Philip's education, $186,000 across 18 separate transactions. I attached the bank statements, screenshots of Venmo transfers with memo lines like, for the mortgage and car fix, receipts from the college bursar showing payments made from my account, emails from Mom asking me to help out just this once that turned into a pattern spanning years. Then I wrote the body of the email. No anger, no bitterness, no emotional appeals, just facts, laid out cleanly, undeniably. This is what I have paid. This is what I was told. This is why I am stopping. I am not asking for repayment. I am not asking for an apology. I am simply making it clear that I will no longer be funding a family that treats me like I do not exist, except when they need money. Philip's tuition is not my responsibility. Your mortgage is not my emergency fund. I am not your backup plan. I am done. I read it 3 times, checking for typos, making sure the tone was exactly what I wanted. Clinical, final. Then I clicked to send. The email left my outbox at 6:47 p.m. By 7:15 p.m., my phone exploded. Aunt Alice called. I answered on the second ring. Eric, honey, is this true? Yes, all of it. Every word, every dollar, every date. She was quiet for a moment. I heard her breathing, heard the sound of a door closing in the background, then softly, carefully. I had no idea. Your mother always said they were managing fine. She said you were doing well but busy with school. She never mentioned any of this. She lied. Eric, I am so sorry. If I had known, if any of us had known, we would have said something. We would have stopped this. It is okay, Aunt Alice. I just needed people to know the truth. She paused. For what it is worth, I am proud of you. For becoming a doctor. For standing up for yourself. For setting boundaries. Your parents should have been proud too. They should have been celebrating you, not using you. My throat tightened. Thank you. We talked for a few more minutes. She told me she would call my grandmother who did not use email. She told me I was not wrong for stopping the payments. She told me I deserve better, that family should lift you up, not drain you dry. When I hung up, I felt lighter, validated. At 8:02 p.m., Dad called. I did not answer. He left a voicemail. His tone was no longer angry. It was something worse. Defensive, wounded, self-righteous. Eric, you had no right to send that email to the whole family. This is a private matter. You are making your mother look bad. She is upstairs crying right now. Is that what you wanted? To humiliate us? To turn everyone against us? I deleted the voicemail. At 8:30 p.m., Philip sent an email. Not a text because I had blocked his number. An actual email, formal and furious. The subject line, "You ruined my life." I opened it. The email was 3 paragraphs of insults. I was selfish. I was jealous. I was vindictive. I was using money to control people. I was sabotaging his future because I could not handle a joke. I was petty, cruel, manipulative. At the end, one line stood out, bold and underlined. I will never forgive you for this. I read it twice, feeling absolutely nothing. Then I replied with a single sentence. I already forgave myself. I hit send and closed my laptop. At 9 p.m., my grandmother called. She was 84, sharp as ever, and did not waste time on pleasantries. Eric, your aunt told me what happened. I read the email she forwarded. I want you to know something. Your grandfather and I set up a college fund for you and Philip when you were kids. $25,000 each. Your parents were supposed to use it for your education when the time came. I froze. What? They told us they used it. Both accounts. They said they put it toward your medical school and Philip's undergraduate. But according to your email, you paid for your own medical school with loans and work. So where did your $25,000 go? I did not have an answer. My mind was spinning, recalculating everything I thought I knew. Grandma's voice was cold, precise, the voice of a woman who had survived the depression and did not tolerate nonsense. I am going to find out, and when I do, your father is going to have a very unpleasant conversation with me. You did the right thing, Eric. Do not let them make you doubt that. We hung up. I sat in the coffee shop staring at my blank laptop screen, and for the first time in years I smiled. The truth was out, and it was spreading faster than they could control it. Over the next 2 weeks, I moved into my new apartment near the hospital and started my residency. The apartment was small, but clean, with hardwood floors and windows that let in good light. It was mine. Paid for with my own money, chosen for my own convenience. I ignored 17 more calls from my parents. I ignored emails from Philip that alternated between begging me to reconsider and threatening me with legal action for emotional damages. I did not reconsider. On May 29th, I received a text from Aunt Alice. Your grandmother called your parents. She demanded to see the college fund records. Turns out they used your fund to pay off credit card debt 8 years ago. They never told you, never planned to. She is furious. She is rewriting her will. I stared at the text for a long time. $25,000. Gone. Used to pay off their mistakes, their overspending, their luxury purchases, while I took out student loans, worked overnight shifts, and graduated with debt that would take me years to pay off. I did not feel shocked. I felt validated, vindicated. Every instinct I had ignored for years had been correct. On June the 2nd, Philip's girlfriend Piper called me from an unknown number. I answered out of curiosity. Eric, please. Philip is a mess. He had to withdraw from Whitman. He lost his semester. He cannot graduate. He is talking about suing you. Please, just pay the balance. Just fix this. He can try to sue, I said calmly, but I have documentation proving I was never legally obligated to pay his tuition. It was a gift. Gifts can be stopped at any time. You are ruining his future. No, Piper, I am letting him face the consequences of his choices. He treated me like garbage. My parents enabled it. They built a life on my money and gave me nothing but disrespect. That is not my fault. That is theirs. She hung up. On June 10th, I received a forwarded email from my Uncle Aaron. It was a message Dad had sent to the extended family, trying to control the narrative. He claimed I had misunderstood the financial arrangement. He said I had offered to help Philip out of brotherly love and was now reneging out of spite over a harmless prank. He painted me as bitter, jealous, emotionally unstable, someone who could not take a joke. Uncle Aaron's forwarded message included one line at the bottom. For the record, I believe Eric, and I think you owe him more than an apology. You owe him honesty and restitution. The extended family was choosing sides, and I was not alone anymore. On June 18th, Philip posted on social media a long, vague status about betrayal, about family, about people who use money to manipulate others. He did not name me directly. He did not have to. The comments filled with supportive messages from his friends who had no idea what really happened. I did not respond. I did not engage. I did not need to. The people who mattered knew the truth. On June 24th, I ran into Mom at a grocery store near my old neighborhood. I was picking up supplies for my new place, basics like dish soap and paper towels. She was in the produce section, looking tired, older than I remembered, her hair grayer at the roots. She saw me, froze, then walked over slowly, cautiously, like she was approaching a wild animal. Eric! Mom! We stood there, awkward, silent. Other shoppers moved past us, oblivious. Philip had to take a job at a call center, she said quietly, not meeting my eyes. He is trying to save up to re-enroll next spring. It has been hard on him, really hard. I nodded. I am sure it has. You could help him. You still could. Just the last semester. Just enough to let him finish. I looked at her. Really looked at her. The woman who had asked me for money 100 times and never once asked how I was doing. The woman who had laughed when Philip shoved cake in my face. The woman who had stolen my college fund and lied about it for 8 years. No, Mom, I could not. Her face crumpled. He is your brother, and I was your son. But that did not stop you from laughing when he humiliated me. It did not stop you from taking my money and pretending it was yours. It did not stop you from stealing from my college fund. So no, I am not helping. Not anymore. Not ever. I walked past her, paid for my groceries, and left. I did not look back. By September, I was 3 months into my residency. The work was brutal, exhausting, relentless. 12-hour shifts that stretched to 14. Patients who needed more than I could give. Attending physicians who demanded perfection, and it was exactly what I needed. I threw myself into patient care, into learning, into building a career that was mine and mine alone. I made friends among my fellow residents, people who understood the struggle, who respected the work, who valued competence over family connections. I had not spoken to my parents in 4 months. I had not spoken to Philip in 5. Then one afternoon in late September, I received a letter in the mail. Handwritten. My mother's handwriting, the same looping cursive she had used to write my name on birthday cards when I was a child. I almost threw it away, but something made me open it. The letter was 2 pages long, front and back, every inch filled with her familiar script. It started with an apology, a real one. She admitted they had used me. She admitted they had taken me for granted, had treated me like a resource instead of a person. She admitted that the cake incident was cruel, that Dad's comment was unforgivable, that they had failed me as parents. She said Philip had dropped out of Whitman permanently. He could not afford to re-enroll. He was working full-time at the call center, living with them, depressed and angry. She said Dad had refused to apologize, that he still believed I was overreacting, that their marriage was strained because of it. She said they were seeing a counselor. She said she missed me, that she woke up some mornings and started to call me before remembering that I would not answer, that she saw my graduation photo on the mantle and felt ashamed. At the end, she wrote, "I do not expect you to forgive us. I do not expect you to come back. I just wanted you to know that I finally see what we did, and I am sorry. I am so, so sorry." I read the letter 3 times, sitting in the resident lounge with a cold cup of coffee beside me. Then I folded it carefully and put it in my locker. I did not write back, not because I was still angry, but because some apologies come too late to rebuild what was broken. Some bridges, once burned, cannot be rebuilt with words. In October, Aunt Alice invited me to Thanksgiving at her house. No drama, she promised. No ambushes. Just people who actually appreciate you. Your grandmother wants to see you. Uncle Aaron wants to catch up. Please come. I accepted. On Thanksgiving Day, I sat at a table with my aunt, my uncle, my grandmother, and 2 cousins I had not seen in years. We ate turkey and stuffing and pumpkin pie. We laughed about old memories, talked about my residency, asked about my plans for the future. Nobody asked me for money. Nobody made me feel small. Nobody treated me like I was invisible. For the first time in years, I felt like I belonged somewhere. Grandma pulled me aside after dinner, leading me to the quiet den where family photos lined the walls. She handed me an envelope, thick and heavy. "What is this?" I asked. "A check, $25,000, the money your parents stole from your college fund. I am giving it to you now, from my own savings. It is yours. It always was supposed to be yours." I stared at the check, my vision blurring. "Grandma, you do not have to do this. You do not owe me anything. I want to. You earned it by surviving them, by becoming who you are despite them. Now go do something good with it. Pay off your loans, take a vacation, buy yourself something nice, whatever you want. It is yours." I hugged her hard and whispered, "Thank you," over and over until the words lost meaning. That night I drove back to my apartment, the check in my pocket, and felt something I had not felt in years. Peace. A year after the graduation dinner, I was a different person. I had finished my first year of residency with strong evaluations. My attending physicians praised my clinical judgment, my bedside manner, my dedication. I had made real friends among my colleagues, people who invited me to dinners and game nights, who valued my presence. I had started paying off my student loans aggressively with the money I was no longer sending to my family. The balance was shrinking. Freedom was visible on the horizon. I had gone on dates. Nothing serious yet, but I was learning how to let people in again, how to trust that not everyone would use me. I had traveled to a medical conference in Chicago, walked along the lakefront, ate deep dish pizza, and felt like a person with a life instead of a person with obligations. I had bought myself a new car, nothing fancy, just a reliable Honda that was mine and mine alone. I had built a life that did not revolve around being useful to people who did not care about me. In December, I received a Facebook message from Philip. It was short, typed late at night, probably after a few drinks. "I get it now. I was an asshole. I took you for granted. I am sorry." I read it. I let it sit in my inbox for 3 days. Then I archived it without replying. Maybe someday I would respond. Maybe someday we could have a conversation. But not today. Not yet. Some wounds take time to heal. Some relationships cannot be salvaged with a single apology. In January, Dad sent an email. The subject line, "Can we talk?" I deleted it without opening it. In March, Mom sent a birthday card to my apartment. Inside, she had written, "Happy birthday, Eric. I hope you are happy and healthy. You deserve to be. Love, Mom." I kept the card. I put it in a drawer with the letter she had sent months before. I still did not call. Some bridges burn, and that is okay. That is allowed. On a quiet evening in April, I sat on my small balcony with a cup of coffee, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. The city hummed below me, alive and indifferent. My phone buzzed, a text from Aunt Alice. "Proud of you, kiddo. Keep going. Keep building your life." I smiled and typed back, "Thanks, I will." I thought about the person I used to be, the one who paid for everything, who stayed silent, who believed that being dependable meant being valued, the one who thought family meant sacrifice without reciprocation. I thought about the moment I removed that credit card from the payment portal, the moment I chose myself over their expectations, the moment I decided that my worth was not measured by my utility. I did not regret it, not for a second, because the family disappointment had become the doctor, the resident, the man who set boundaries and built a life worth living. And that was the best revenge of all. Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet, steady, undeniable success. I finished my coffee, watched the last light fade from the sky, and went inside to prepare for my shift tomorrow. I had patience to see, a career to build, a life to live, and for the first time in my life, I was living it for myself.